Class D on.
Sometimes we live in a challenging world. And because of that, there is a motivational speaker racket out there that is huge. Sometimes you wonder how genuine these people are that are motivational speakers. Today, my goal is to present an added dimension to the motivation arena. These people have been in your face, and maybe you've overlooked them for a long time. Cheerleaders. Today, Emily Williams of the NBA Charlotte Hornets Honeybees is going to break down the art of cheer. You definitely will be left buzzing, so let's go. And today on Voices, I have a very, very special guest. They're going to cheer up your spirit and they're going to cheer up your day. I have Emily with me today, and she's going to talk about cheerleading. I'm so excited about it because I've been following and I've known Emily for quite some time now. And just to see the evolution of who she is, it's been really, really wonderful. Like, she's like the biggest sunflower that I can imagine. And so no person can give a better introduction for themselves than themselves. So, Emily, thank you for being here, and I give the floor to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm Emily, and I'm so excited to talk to you guys today, all things cheer. I'm really happy that you're having me, and thank you for all the sweet words that you just said about me. That just made my day.
Well, I'm trying to mimic what you do because I think that's so important. And the thing is,
Yes.
because I was a teacher before, I didn't really know the levels of cheerleading, and so I saw little girls cheerleading, but I really didn't like register, the value they had until I was a coach and I saw different levels. So I kind of want to start with just the baseline of cheerleading for you. Like, what does cheerleading mean to you?
Well, cheerleading to me is something that I'm really passionate about. I think that it is something that helped guide me into a more structured life. It brought me my closest friends that have now turned into like family. It taught me teamwork and discipline, and the team becomes your family and you make so many memories. So it's really just like a family and like a sisterhood to me.
And that's really awesome because the thing is, I've seen a couple of practices and I don't necessarily understand, so I've never pretended to. But I am often amazed about like just sort of the choreography and the sort of the precision that I see in many times in cheerleading. So with that, like, what got you into cheerleading and like how long have you been doing it?
So I actually started when I was in the third grade, and how I got into it is my mom and I were driving through downtown Mount Holly, and I saw the girls out there cheerleading for the Optimist team. And I was like, Mom, I want to go do that. So she immediately signed me up, and I got started. And with that, I just kind of took off from there, and I started getting into competing with All-Stars. And then I cheered at school, in middle school and high school. I did All-Stars for 5 or 7 years, somewhere around in there. And then now I'm doing it at a professional level. And I honestly feel like I could do it for the rest of my life. It's something that I really do not get tired of.
And so can you explain like what All Stars is? Because like on a sort of a sports side, I understand what like the kind of levels are, but I think for some people they might not understand like what All Stars is.
So All Stars is competition. You go to a gym, it's not like you go and you try out. Everyone makes a team, but you have what we call like an evaluation. So everyone's put on separate teams, and it's split up by levels. And then you work all season on one routine. You might make changes here and there, but you work on mainly just one big routine that you go to probably maybe 20 to 40 competitions to compete. And then I've traveled all over the Charlotte area. I went to Florida a few times. We went to Atlanta. I mean, we went everywhere. Columbia, Raleigh, all over the place. But it's more just like you're not cheering for a team, you're going and competing against other cheerleading teams. Unlike if you were a collegiate cheerleader or high school cheerleader where you're cheering on your football and basketball team on the sidelines.
And one of the things is, and while I won't go deep into this, I remember having the debates when I had cheerleaders in class when I was teaching high school and middle school, junior high school, is where boys would be like, cheerleading's not a sport. And then I had a couple of cheerleaders teach me, like, competitive cheer is absolutely a sport. And I've watched it and totally is. And so with that, like, because it is a sport, like, what kind of physical conditioning or training is necessary to be a cheerleader?
A lot of strength and endurance. You have to have a very, very good endurance, because if you think about it, you're going full throttle and doing stunts and tumbling and dancing and jumps all at the same time for 2.5 minutes. So I remember running laps around the parking lot during practices. And even today now, I still have to have so much endurance, because where I'm not doing a 2.5 minute routine anymore, I'm doing a 3-hour game, and I'm running from one part of the arena to the other part of the arena. And if I do not keep up with my running and my endurance, I'm going to probably just pass out, because I'm going to be so tired and out of breath.
And you I think that's interesting, because I don't think people really appreciate the work you have to do physically to do what you're doing. And so you mentioned something about stunts. So, like, what's a stunt, and what are, like, the most complicated stunts either you've participated in or that you kind of know of?
So something interesting about myself is during my competitive cheerleading days, I could be a base or a flyer. So I was either the one holding the girl up or I was the girl on top. And for me, they're both different. I think that as a base, the hardest was the pyramid, because if your flyer, if one thing happened with one group, then the rest of the group came tumbling down, because it's where you have to have that teamwork, and you have to be confident in your peers and your teammates that you can all work together. And you just have to make sure that you know what you're doing and you're doing the right thing, because if one thing goes wrong during that pyramid, the whole thing comes tumbling down. And it's honestly, I think it's the hardest to save a pyramid, like to save it and get it back up, because there's so many moving parts. Your pyramid is supposed to be like your big showcase at the end of your routine. So it's definitely always the hardest and the most wow factor that you have to try and hit. But also as a flyer, I think the hardest stunt would be your basket tosses, because those, you're tossing girls up in the air and you have to do flips and kicks while like spinning and then coming back down. And for me, when I flew, that was the hardest thing for me to do. I don't know why, but that was just something that I thought was the most difficult.
I think you're kind of crazy for being a flyer in general, because I saw a meme or something like that the other day where it said, you think you're crazy. Imagine being a girl getting thrown in the air, and like you volunteered to be just kind of tossed.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah.
And you have to have a lot of faith in the people to catch you.
Yes. So I don't know if anybody listening or if you have watched the show Cheer on Netflix, but every time they would drop a stunt, they had to do push-ups, and we had to do that as well. So you are supposed to never let your flyer hit the ground. And if they do, then everyone we would either run laps or we would do push-ups, or sometimes even both, just depending on what it was. But it's definitely scary, because I've came tumbling down in multiple times, and luckily I was never like seriously injured, but I watched people break their arms or dislocate elbows, and after that I was kind of like, I don't think I want to fly anymore. I'd rather just be a base. Like, don't put me in the air, please. That's not for me.
And the thing is, but even like mentioning conditioning, like being a base, you have to be pretty strong to do that, because you have to like catch people and hold people. So it's always been interesting, because a lot of cheerleading teams, I've only seen it really in college where they have men. And I've seen it also like in All-Stars, I guess, too, but I don't really see a ton of it, I guess, on the professional level. But Like, so that means the women have to be really, really strong. And it's deceptive because you just kind of get caught up in what they look like as far as, oh, they're pretty, but you don't realize how
Mhm.
strong they are. And so I want to
Yeah.
give you props for that because I think that's a really cool thing as well. And so another question I have is, so because like you've done obviously different levels, and on each level I feel like it probably is different. Does studying
Mhm.
dance or like practicing dance help you sort of become a better cheerleader?
Well, so cheerleading and dancing are kind of like polar opposites. In cheerleading, whenever you have like your dance portion of your routine, you want really crisp, clean, sharp motions. Whereas in dance, you're more flowy, graceful, kind of like groovy, I guess. You want to groove with your motions and kind of flow them together and be graceful, that sort of thing. But cheerleading, it's always very upbeat, always really sharp, and it's like a hit, 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 and then in dance, it kind of all flows together. But I will say that, so as a cheerleader right now for the Hornets, we do more dancing side of things rather than cheerleading side of things. But the cool thing about me growing up as a cheerleader is it kind of sets me apart from the rest of the girls and kind of shows that, I can do both. And I have like a little more uniqueness about my style of dance rather than blending in with all of the other girls.
And I bet that gave you a little bit of an edge, not only for yourself, but like just sort of when you performed, that you knew that they saw that you had the ability to be precise and the ability
Mhm.
to kind of flow. So I think that's really cool, and it's a compliment because I again, it's just I watch some of the routines, both on college, pro, high school levels, because I was
Mhm.
coaching or I paid the ticket to go into a game, and I am often amazed sort of by the energy that's there, even in mistakes, because I think that's something that I give a lot of
Yeah,
credit
definitely.
for because like I've seen like you. I don't know if you said you were dropped, but I've seen like YouTube videos when they've showed
Mhm.
cheerleaders get dropped and they just bounce right up and they keep going. And in my brain, I'm like, dude, are you okay? And they're just like, they just keep going. And I'm like, how? Eh, eh,
I
eh,
feel like that's just like a cheerleader's mentality. It's just kind of like, if it doesn't hit that one time, you just kind of get right back up and you just are ready to redo it again. And I think it's just like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but you're kind of just so frustrated with the situation that you just want to make it happen. So it kind of gives you like that drive to keep going. But sometimes I don't know. I don't know that I could bounce right back up after them sometimes because some of the falls are really scary.
Yes, they are. And but you talked about something that leads me to my next question is about uh character traits. So what are some of the
Mhm.
characteristics you think that make for a good cheerleader? And because you've done it on different levels, you probably can like give depth on different levels as well.
Yeah. So you definitely, all across the board, you have to be a team player. You cannot be self absorbed and want to be front and center. It's all a team sport. You do everything as a team. You can't, just rely on yourself. You have to rely on others. And in the pro world, everyone wants to be front and center for a dance and they want to make sure that they look good. But in all honesty, if someone doesn't look good or someone messes up in the dance, it makes the whole team, as a whole look bad. So you definitely have to be a team player. You also have to be really hardworking. You have to be willing to put the work in to get the outcome that you want. um, Commitment and dedication, you definitely have to have that because I know there are days where I don't want to go to practice, but again, it comes back to I don't want to let my team down, so I suck it up and I go anyways. And then I'm glad at the end of the day that I went and worked so hard. Um, Being positive is definitely one of the things. You can't be, no one wants a sour cheerleader. No one wants a cheerleader that looks mad at the world. They expect a cheerleader to be fun, peppy, outgoing, entertaining, getting the crowd pumped for a game or whatever it is. They want to see you smiling and they want to see you having a positive impact on their time while they're there. Um, you definitely have to have athleticism. Obviously, that's a main key there. You also need to be able to follow rules and directions. you have a coach and you need to be respectful for them and you need to listen to what they say. You need to make sure that you are following their rules no matter what they are, even if you disagree with them. They're rules for a reason. And then the last one I think is really important. You want to have patience and persistence. You definitely want to be patient because not everyone can catch on to things as quick as you. Also, not everything is going to hit the first time you do it. You have to have patience and you have to be willing to work at it over and over again until you get it right.
And the patience and persistence part is really, really, I think, something important. And when you said it carries into your life, it does really create good character traits for you. And so you mentioned something about competitive cheer, but I mean, I don't know necessarily if on the pro level you compete, so to speak. I'm sure you are competitive. And so, but what is it like to prepare to compete for maybe a competition and like mentally and physically?
So to prepare and compete for competitions, practice makes perfect. I stopped competing when I was in high school because I aged out, unfortunately. But when I competed, we would have 2-hour practices, 2 to 3 days a week. Sometimes our practices got extended to 4 hours the week before or the week of competition. So you're constantly working on your routine for 2 hours, maybe more. And then on competition day, you meet up with your team, you stretch, you sit around with your coaches and your teammates, and you're in kind of like a circle, and you kind of are in like a huddle, and they'll play the music, and you sit there and you like close your eyes and visualize yourself hitting every stunt. This was like something that I thought was kind of silly when they first wanted me to do it. But then the more I did it, the more I realized it kind of gives you that, confidence, like, ooh, I can see myself. I'm visualizing myself hitting my stunts, hitting my tumbling passes, hitting those jumps. And then you go into warm-ups right after that. And in warm-ups, it's kind of where it all sets in. You're like, okay, I just saw myself doing this in my head. Let me get ready and do it for real. So you're kind of like ready to get it rolling. And when you're in warm-ups, it's like game on. You have your game face on. You do not cut up. You don't act silly. You don't look at other teams. You don't try to get distracted. You're not focused on anything but you and your team and what you guys are about to go put on that floor. We used to have a saying when I was competing that you put your blinders on. So we would always say, like, put your blinders on, get ready. You're in warm-ups. You don't want to look at anyone else. And then we weren't trying to be rude or trying to be mean, but you just kind of want to like focus in on you and your team. You don't want to look at someone else going and doing a tumbling pass that's beautiful, and then you kind of lose all confidence in yourself. You only have 2.5 minutes to showcase all the hard work that you and your teammates put into the routine. So once you step on that mat, there's no going back. So you don't want to have any regrets from not focusing in warm-ups. And we weren't rude or anything like that. I don't want to make it sound like we were trying to be disrespectful to other teams or anything. We definitely always had good showmanship, said good luck to other teams as we were passing them in warm-ups, that sort of thing. But we just never tried to look off and watch other teams warming up.
I mean, you sound like a sports coach. I'm just being honest, which is, again, why I'm saying I think it's very much a sports thing. And so just sort of for balancing your life, like, so what do you do when you're not cheerleading? Because that seems like a sort of an all-encompassing, really time-consuming thing. So just to have a balance, what can you do for yourself to kind of make your life balanced?
Well, right now my life is kind of crazy. I'm a very, very busy person. It's kind of hectic, but I go to school right now. I'm in college at UNCC working on my bachelor's degree. I only have 2 more semesters, thank goodness.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you. I also work a part-time job. I work for Orange Theory Fitness. It's just something just to kind of, make a little extra money on the side, and then just kind of give me like an oasis. I really like to work out and run to clear my mind. So being able to go to the gym to work and work out is kind of like an escape from all of the stress from school and remembering dances and practices and games and that sort of thing. I try to stay busy. I like the busy lifestyle. Whenever I don't have anything to do, I kind of like, I just don't ever know what to do. I'm like, what am I supposed to do today? I'm off from work. I'm off from school. Like, I don't have anything to do. And I just feel like I don't know what to do with myself. But on those days, I do like to just kind of relax, watch TV. I'm really upset that they took Friends off Netflix. That was kind of like my relaxation, but hopefully it comes back. Fingers crossed. But other than that, I really like to be active and do things outdoors. I don't like to sit around the house. If I'm sitting around the house, then I just tend to sleep and do nothing with my life, and I do not like that at all. So I try to keep myself really busy, even if that means going and shopping and spending money that I probably should not be spending, but it's okay.
Okay, well, honesty is definitely a virtue, so I'm good with that. So with that, I mean, you just sort of finding the balance. Also, I know sort of asking, well, what do you do when you're not cheerleading? I'm sure some things that happen in the cheerleading life, from being a young cheerleader to being an adult cheerleader now, things might bleed into your life from cheer. And so what are some of the stereotypes about cheer or cheerleaders that you've heard and you're like, those are totally false? And then what are some of the stereotypes that might be true and you're like, that's true, but you know, it kind of is what it is?
Okay, so let's see. Cheerleaders, this is probably my favorite one that people like to say, is that cheerleaders are just beauty and no brains. That's definitely 100% false, because there are so many of my teammates that are, you know, working on their master's degree or have their master's degree, or I know I'm definitely intelligent, so I get kind of offended when people like to tell me that just because I'm blonde and I'm a cheerleader that, you know, I'm probably not smart. And I'm just like, well, thank you. I'm working on my second degree, but that's nice to know.
You tell them, girl, 2 degrees, but go ahead.
I have teammates on my team, or that were on the team, that have their PhD. One's a pharmacist. So like, we're definitely not, I mean, you can be pretty and attractive and you can still, you know, be smart and work hard at school. It doesn't, just because you're a cheerleader does not mean that, you know, you can't have good grades.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So I was just going to ask, I mean, I think then you can actually look at the success, the personal life success that a lot of, not only you, but others have had being cheerleaders. And I can ask the question, so which behaviors do you think from being a cheerleader has bled into their life that makes them even a more quality worker, friend, a relationship partner, because they're a cheerleader? Like, what are some of the traits that you think makes you better equipped to deal with people because you've been a cheerleader?
I definitely think that the positive pep that you have to, you know, obtain is something that I carry into my day-to-day lifestyle. It definitely helps me look at a situation, and even though it might be a negative situation, I can find the small piece that's positive in it, and then it just changes my outlook on everything, which I think a lot of people could benefit from that, honestly, because I know there's some people, you know, you just have a terrible day at work, and I get that, and you're allowed to be upset. But if you find that one positive thing that happened during your day or in that situation, it's going to make that whole outcome and the rest of your day 10 times better. So I think that's something that's really big that I take in every day. Edit that. But that I take every day with me in my lifestyle. It also helps that in cheerleading, you have this big confidence factor that you have to have within yourself. You have to have, you want to be confident going into interviews or going into your job, or like when I'm dealing with patients, like I don't want to lack confidence in my ability to do my job. So I want to make sure that I bring that confidence out in myself, and I'm not like nervous and scared and that sort of thing. It definitely, cheerleading helps you break out of your shell and kind of learn who you are. Like, kind of guides you to, being that role model that you want to be for other people.
And that's really awesome because it says something about there's a drive and ambition that exists in
Mhm.
cheerleading that is, and because some people might think it's false, but it's not false cheer. You're actually digging from in yourself to do that. You said something that like Tony Robbins said as far as visualization and motivation. So that means, I mean, realistically, I mean, I don't know if they do this, but I feel like cheerleaders might be able to get like on the speaker circuit and go into some businesses and like, kind of make some money on the side from motivating people, just from talking, because I mean,
Yeah, no,
what you're saying
I
sounds like
agree.
something you have to live by anyways.
Mhm.
And
It
so,
definitely is.
like you mentioned before, like obviously you started when you were a young girl, and now you're an adult now. So what was it like to, as far as the process to move up levels? Because I mean, you've literally become a professional. So you went from like amateur to the pros. And so what did you do to help yourself get to the point you're in now?
So, let's see. Growing up, I started with with Optimus level, which is just kind of like rec cheerleading for football, and then I moved up into going to middle school, and I started doing All Stars. And for All Stars, you have an evaluation that you do every year. Every level requires different skill sets. So you go and you do your evaluation, and you level by earning more tumbling skills, basically. You have to have the tumbling skills in order to get on the team, but the stunting also gets harder, but they will teach you the stunting part, but you have to already have that tumbling part. Um, that also goes into college. For college, you have to have specific tumbling requirements in order to make the team when you try out, audition, try out, same thing. But whenever you try out for college, you have to have specific tumbling skills rather than stunting skills, because the stunting comes second. You can learn the stunting, but they want you to already have that tumbling. For a professional level, there weren't any cheerleading skill sets that I actually needed. It just set me apart from others, that when I got out there to do my freestyle routine, I could sit there and tumble for 2 minutes straight, and no one else could do that. So it kind of put me as like in a different category, but it made me so unique that I was an asset to the team.
That's brilliant. And again, you're showing the value of diversification in, your skill set up to the grand thing of going professional. So a question about the fact that, yeah, even though what you cheer now, but your cheerleading is a little
Hmm.
bit different than
Yeah.
what you did before. If you were looking at cheerleading in the traditional sense, what would be something or some things, if there's more than one, that you think that could be added or kind of altered to improve cheerleading for the cheerleaders and maybe the coaches, and just for competition's sake in general?
So I think this is like a really important question, because I think it applies to what I'm about to say is going to apply to any sports team, any sport that you're doing as a child. I think the coaches overall, they just need to make sure that the kids remember that they're there to have fun and not always be so hard on them. I see now parents are paying for private lessons. Their kid never leaves the gym. They're living at the gym. And for me, I remember I would go and do my 3 days a week, and I would work hard those 4 hours, those 3 days that I was there. But then I got to go home and hang out with friends and do fun things on the weekends. And they might still have been my cheer friends, but we did other things besides eat, live, breathe, cheer. We got to experience more things together instead of just going from the gym to go home to go to bed. I think that now parents are just so they want to drive their kids into one sport. They have to pick one thing, and they have to be really good at it because they want them to do it at a collegiate or professional level. But I mean, I think the main factor is that parents and coaches just need to dial it down just a little bit. I think it's great to have your kid want to excel at something. And for me, it was cheerleading. I wanted to excel at cheerleading. I was passionate, still am so passionate about it. But my mom never pushed me. And I think that's why I became so passionate about it, because my mom was very, Emily, if you want to do this, do it. If not, we don't have to. It's okay. And so that made me want to do it even more, because I knew that my mom was going to be in my corner no matter what, and I wouldn't let her down. And I think now it's a lot of stress on these athletes that, they have to work extra hard, and they have to live at that gym 24/7, which I think that's why cheerleaders now are prone to so many injuries, because they're overworking their bodies. They need to learn how to rest and take care of their bodies and actually just, take a break every once in a while. I think it's really important. And I don't think enough children and kid athletes know that, like the youth of athletes, they just don't understand that rest is needed for your body, no matter what age you are and no matter how great you are at that sport.
That was very profound. I even though I have more questions, I feel like, wow, that's just like a thing where you want to rewind and play it back again because you've lived it. And it also sounds like your mom was a cheerleader for you in general, but she knew her place and she knew when she was
Yes.
supposed to cheer. And that sounds like a great family relationship. So I haven't talked about like sort of what you're doing now in cheer much yet. So we're going to start moving towards that. But before we do that, what do you think? Well, no, I'm going to change gears. Let's go into that because so you are a professional cheerleader. And so you are a cheerleader for the Charlotte Hornets. And if I'm correct, they're called the Honeybees, right?
Yes, the Honeybees.
And I think that's so awesome because it totally makes sense. And it's cute too. Like the name is totally cute. So what is it like to cheer for a professional sports team? I mean, like, because I'm guessing you get to go to places and the game days, I'm sure, are like absolutely insane. And then you have community service things and events. So what has it been like for you? Because you've been a professional for, I think, 2 years now, right?
Yes, this is my second season with the Charlotte Hornets. Previously, I did 2 seasons with the Charlotte Checkers as a checkmate. And so 4 years total, I guess. But now I'm with the Hornets, and it's honestly been amazing. It's completely different than my competitive cheerleading days. You do so much more, I feel like, we have practice and we work hard at practice. And we have games and we work hard at games. But my favorite thing that I think sets us apart from any other team that I've ever been on is the community service. The community service is my absolute favorite thing because I love to volunteer. That's one thing that I really do enjoy. And I get to do it with my teammates and with an organization that I'm really, really involved in and truly believe in. So being a part of this, I get to do all kinds of things. We go to dance studios and teach dances and camps with little girls. We go to local high schools and we speak to their teams about health and fitness and the importance of taking care of your body. So like what I talked about previously with rest and how important it is and how people don't understand like what it means to take a break, we are going out in the community and letting these athletes know that it's okay to rest your body, that you need to listen to your body, that when you're tired and your body is aching, you need to stop. You need to take a break. And I think it's really important that we teach these kids that, because if they keep going, at 100 all day, every day, they're never going to be able to make it to a collegiate or professional level because their bodies are going to be so exhausted. So I really like that I'm able to go out in the community and tell this to, girls that look up to me and my teammates. And I think it's really important that we're spreading that throughout the community as well.
And so a thing, because if people don't necessarily know, the Charlotte Checkers are I think they're AHL, but I know they're right below
AHL, yeah.
professional. So, but how is it different cheerleading for hockey and cheerleading for basketball? Because there's two starkly different sports. And so I'm kind of curious, what's sort of the environment difference for you as a cheerleader?
So the environment difference, number one, is you have a completely different fan base. So for hockey, you have kind of wild, crazy, I don't know the right word to even describe it, but you just have you have these die-hard fans that, I mean, they eat, live, breathe everything hockey. They know every girl on that team by name, and they are going to be there. They know every player. They know every single stat about every player for that hockey team. And it's just a whole different scene. And they come in and they're dressed in their hockey jerseys and, their beanies because it's cold with the ice and everything. And then you have your basketball fans, and your basketball fans are kind of like, laid back and cool, and they want to get hype with the crowd and all of that stuff, but they're dressed in they're going out on the town, they're going uptown Charlotte, they're dressed nice, and they're there to sit back, sip on their drink, eat their popcorn, watch the game, get hype every now and then. Whereas hockey, you got the cowbells, and they are going crazy. It is, because in hockey you have a lot of fighting, and the crowd is loving it. They're banging on the glass. I mean, it gets out of hand sometimes. They are crazy.
It's
but
the
dancing
Roman
wise,
Coliseum.
yes, at the Bojangles Coliseum. Oh, they're wild. But it's you still have a fun fan interaction base. I don't want to say that one team's better than the other fan wise or anything like that, because they're just so different. You can't even compare the two. Team wise, like dancing, you can do a little more as a honeybee rather than a checkmate, just because as a checkmate, we're dancing on ice. So we have to do a lot more movements in one place, whereas dancing for the Hornets, we're dancing on a basketball court. So I get to actually tumble during dances sometimes, and we get to do a lot of formation changes, and we get to do cool tricks. We did one trick where we had girls doing cartwheels over our legs, and one where girls were doing backflips over our shoulders, or where we threw girls out to do a backflip from our hands, fun things like that. Whereas you could never do that on the ice because it's so slippery. So they're definitely alike in some ways, but they're definitely a lot more different than they are similar.
Well, and in addition to that, I love the mascots, because I think it's Chubby Checker,
Yes.
the big white bear.
Yes.
And then there's obviously Hugo, the man, right? Hugo is a boy, right? I don't want to say Hugo is a man.
Yeah, Hugo is a boy.
Okay.
Is a boy.
And so I just think it's really an amazing experience. So I have about 3 more questions for you. And so the first question is related to back to basketball, because since you're currently a honeybee, the NBA All-Star game is coming up in the next, I think, 2-3 weeks. Last year, the All-Star game was in Charlotte. And so you got to take part in that whole thing. And so what was the All-Star game like? What was a highlight for you? What is your fondest memory of the event?
So my favorite memory of the event was when we got to actually perform during the game. We got to, during one of the timeouts, we got to run out on the court and do our routine like we would any other game, but it was just more extravagant, I guess. We had worked so hard, and that was the longest weekend of my life, but it was worth every minute of it, just to be out there for a minute and a half to do that dance. It might have been 2 minutes, but we went out there just to do that dance, and you could hear the crowd, you could hear the hype, you could hear how excited they were to have us there. And it was really cool just because, there were plenty of famous people there all weekend, and we were like, oh my gosh, we heard Beyonce's here, is she gonna watch us dance? Oh my goodness, we were all so nervous. I don't know.
The Queen Bee at the Hive with the Hornets. That's just awesome.
I don't know if she really was there, but there were rumors. We never actually saw her, but there were rumors. But we had, I mean, there were so many people there. Ludacris was there, obviously. I think 2 Chainz was there. There were a bunch of rappers. J. Cole was there, obviously. He performed. So, I mean, it was really, really nice just to, like, know that all these people are going to actually see, you know, like, what we do and, like, how important our team is. So that was really nice to have.
And you know, while I am an NBA fan, I don't know if I'm a closet Knicks fan, but because I'm from New York, I like the Knicks. But I do want the Hornets to make the playoffs again. So you know,
Oh, yes,
it's
me
great for the
too.
city because I just when the sports teams in the city are good, it affects the sort of entire energy of the city. So the next question I have is about cheerleading on the professional, semi-professional, just in general is cheerleading. What do you see as the future of cheerleading, and where do you see yourself in that future, and just in general your future for yourself?
The future of cheerleading, I think cheerleading is going to just keep growing and keep growing. I think that now that this Netflix documentary has came out, it's going to shine a light on cheerleaders, and it kind of shows, you know, the hard work that we put in, and we're not all just, you know, cute little ponytail girls flipping around doing whatever, cheering on the team. We're actually like doing a sport, and we're
Right.
working so hard for it. So I think it's definitely going to get more people active in the cheer community. And I think that it's just going to keep growing and growing. I hope that it gets to be, you know, huge. And I think that it might become they might even like have a professional cheer team where you do stunts and that sort of thing, maybe for the NBA or the NFL, something like that, which I think would be great to see. And then for me in the future with cheerleading, I don't know how long I can keep doing it professionally, hopefully for years and years to come. But whenever it is my time to, you know, retire from it, sadly, I hope that I will still be involved within the community as an alumni, still do events and fun things, maybe even, you know, look at coaching an all-star team or even coaching a school team, something like that. I would love to do that for sure. I definitely think that that would be something I could see myself doing in my future, but probably within the next few years, I will have graduated college and hopefully have a good job working and hopefully doing something within cheerleading, whether it is coaching or I'm still dancing, cheering myself. That would be the ultimate goal.
Well, who knows? You might be one of the pioneers that helps create a professional league for cheerleaders, because I don't see why it wouldn't be possible. I think,
Yeah,
I've
definitely.
while I haven't watched the entire Netflix thing, I've watched some episodes. And what another thing
Uh-huh.
that I think is really powerful is the number of men that are in there. And I think,
Yes.
while it's sort of sexist and unfair, but I think when more men start to participate, I think you'll see more funding will start following cheerleading as well. So if that's necessary to sort of get it on a professional level, why not, right?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely love all the guys that are on cheer teams. They're definitely a necessity, and they are something that brings a lot to the table when they are on the team. So I hope more and more guys decide to do it.
And so with sort of rounding it all out, I like to do the final thought. The podcast is called Voices of My Brothers, Sisters, My People, and I'm so proud to hear voices of people, to see them evolve and become so great in their lifetime, and knowing that the trajectory they're going is even greater. And so I like to leave the final word with the guest, always to leave whatever they want as far as advice or just the final thought that they have for the listeners to go forward from, to kind of be a thing that they want them to know. And so with that, I want to thank you so much, Emily, and I'm going to leave the final word to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I love doing this. And the one thing that I hope that everyone takes away from listening to this is just the positive impact that you can have on yourself and each other. You don't have to be a cheerleader to be positive, but you can learn a lot from cheerleaders with their positivity. So just make sure that you always are finding the positive in every situation, no matter the situation. And other than that, I really hope that you guys learned a lot about cheerleading from me, and I hope I answered all of the questions that you had.